Good afternoon. Surprise. Surprise, surprise. Uh oh. Wait. Before we get started, here we go. Surprise. I'm here. Decided to do the live stream earlier just to get on some people's nerves. It is October 15th, 2024. The time now is 2:56 p.m. Eastern Time. I might do another live later on, but since I have Beetlejuice. I have the Beetlejuice folks doing black magic. I'm going to give them a breather, let them catch up a little bit. Maybe, I'll give them a day to catch up. Got all these people uh, engaging in this activity voodoo, hoodoo, black magic to keep people from talking. So, just letting you guys know if you do more black magic, I'm just going to do more videos and more live streams. So we're going to get started on we left off yesterday. Hold on. I got to fix this thing because it's not working properly. The mic is not working properly. Not working properly. Let's see. Okay, I think that's okay. So we left off yesterday at the little Hitlers and the Lodge brothers. Hold on. So the Lodge brothers and the little Hitlers, while the one world elitists in England were scheming for control of the planet, and were scheming for the suppression and elimination of the masses by any means necessary, their American brethren, and brethren they were, in a deal reportedly cut in 1897 to apportion the business of the world, where they were thinking along the same lines. So, who made these deals to cut the population? Again, 1897. So, this is about what? A decade prior to the eugenics program being implemented in the United States. So, who cut these deals to reduce the world's population? In these early years of the 20th century, the British Brown Table controllers that were acting on the command or at the command level of the United States, were members of the German spawned Skulls and Bones Society. They worked in concert with the Rockefellers and other groups to pour huge amounts of money or sums of money into the American and German coffers. And this was done for research on psychiatry, psychiatric genetics, eugenics, euthanasia, and other means of perfecting, quote unquote, perfecting the race. So these controlling factions wanted to perfect what they conceived as an otherwise imperfect human race, at least in terms of acceptable status to the elite. Although it may seem obvious, political and economic imperialism are almost always linked to an imperialism of the mind. In the early 20th century, embryonic studies of biology, eugenics, and the human mind were massively funded to be utilized not for the overall improvement of the human condition, but for the domination of humans and the domination of the many by the few. And they believed that this was for the quote unquote good of the state. Skull and Bones Society in Yale which was based on an American chapter of the German secret society that is in all probability linked to the famous Illuminati, was founded on May 1st of 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. I always say his name wrong. Weishaupt. He was a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt and referred to internally as the Order. Samuel Russell was the founder of the Russell and Company that shipped opium from Turkey to China in the 19th century. Numerous of the 19 numerous of the dominant Eastern establishment families were part of the in American affairs, were present day made their fortune in the opium shipping. Russell bought out the Perkins Syndicate in 1830 that had previously dominated the American opium shipping market. So they were always drug dealers and thieves, basically. The majority of these corporations have always been part of the drug trade. So amongst Russell's employees were Warren Delano Jr., which was the grandfather of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, John Cleve Green, who financed Princeton University, and Joseph Coolidge, which was the son, or his son was the organizer of the United Fruit Company and had alleged ties to mafia. They were involved in drug smuggling, while his grandson was one of the co-founders of the Council on Foreign Relations. The American Skulls and Bones Group was founded in 1833 at Yale University by Samuel Russell's cousin, General William Hunting Russell. That was his name. And also Alfonso Taft. In 1831 through 1832, Russell studied in Germany at the time of a hotbed of the Hegelian Prussian system. That was declared the jackbooted state as supreme and the individual as merely a cell in the greater organism. So all they thought about was the cog in the machine. You're just a cell in the whole system. While in Germany, Russell apparently was contacted by the Bavarian Illuminati, which was an offshoot of the group. Skulls and Bones was incorporated in the United States in 1856 as the Russell Trust, and like the Illuminati, is also known as the quote-unquote Order. Internal documentation of the Skull and Bones places the beginning of this German predecessor group at about the time of the Illuminati, and this was suppressed by the Bavarian elector. The order, which is the Skulls and Bones, according to historian Anthony C. Sutton, quote, has either set up or penetrated just about every significant research, policy, and opinion-making organization in the United States, in addition to the church, in addition to business, in addition to the law, in addition to government and politics. So politicians. Not all at the same time, but persistently and consistently enough to dominate the direction of the American society. The evolution of American society is not, and has not been for a century, a voluntary development reflecting individual opinions, reflecting individual ideas, and individual decisions at the grassroots. So, for the past century, America has been controlled by the secret societies, and we can all admit to that now. Nothing that we've seen in politics and law, in the justice system, and the business system and Wall Street is organic. It's controlled by the selected few and steered by the selected few. Now, on the contrary, the broad direction has been created artificially and stimulated by the quote unquote order. Part of the New World Order plan, which is reflected in the views of the people who have prompted it or promoted it, has always been has always been eugenics. I'm going to repeat that again for the people in the back. The broad direction has been created artificially and stimulated by the order. That means all the secret societies that I just mentioned 5 minutes ago. Part of the New World Order plan, reflected in the views of the people that run the orders and who promote it, has always been eugenics. The elimination of the quote unquote useless eaters and the inferior races who are seen only as an impediment in the road of the almighty state. Their aim is a new synthesis in which the only solution for what they consider an overpopulated earth is massive depopulation programs. And this is to be instituted and for the most of the persons left on the planet, it's to be subsist in a virtually pre-industrial tribal state. So they want to reduce, and they've always been wanting to reduce the population of the planet by every means necessary, whatever's available to them. And they want the people that are left over in a status of pre-industrial state. So basically, we're going back about 1,000 years. They want us 1,500 years. The Aborigines, but Aborigines with laptops and computers. So they want us tribal, but with some function, right? They want you to still work as a slave on a computer, on a laptop, I mean, if there is I guess, hospitality, the controllers naturally would not be so burdened by the hardship, but would serenely float above society like members of Wells. And they would be on top of the pyramid in the technocracy, skimming the cream. Eugenics as a subject had been disseminated by the English. And this was, of course, Galton. I've done live streams on when the eugenics program started in the United States, and it started really with Francis Galton. So eugenics was the subject that was disseminated by the English psychologist Francis Galton, beginning in 1883. Again, seeing the state rather than the individual as the supreme being and the supreme measure of man, and taking off from Darwin's theory of natural selection. Galton proposed that through selective intervention, through breeding programs, and the suppression of the less desirable breeding race stock, society might be brought up to an overall higher condition. In 1904, the University College in London established the first chairs in eugenics and eugenics in working society in London. This led to the creation of the Galton Laboratory of National Eugenics in 1907. The ideas of eugenics and the ideas of euthanasia and the ideas of sterilization for those judged inferior were heartily supported in London, specifically by the upper crust of the society of the populace, who were eager to do something about the bothersome lower classes. This is their wet dream come true. Medicine, these are the ones that call themselves philanthropists, that want to help us. These are the same people that want you to take poison shots. These are the same institutions and foundations that claim they want equality and that have given you critical race theory. These are the same people. So we need to wake up because we've always been in dangerous times, but these are the times where we have the information to really speak for ourselves about their ignorance, because these individuals are ignorant. They're inbred. Most of these families are inbred, mentally ill, psychotic, when they can look at the populace and be fine with eliminating a billion or 2 billion people. They call us savages, and their thought process is barbaric. They call us uneducated, and them with all their education and all their wealth, they're 5 to 10,000 years behind mentally. That's why I have no respect for the elite. That's why I have no respect for most of billionaires, because this is how they think. So the idea of eugenics, euthanasia, and sterilization for those judged inferior were heartily supported in London, specifically by the upper class of the populace, who were eager to do away with the bothersome lower classes. Eugenics philosophy and their programs were soon received with approval worldwide. Only by the elite, it was received with approval by the politicians in high society and their families and the institutions. So it was received well worldwide by the elites. However, including in America in 1911, when Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis ordered Standard Oil broken up, J.D. Rockefeller, the first American to amass $1 billion in assets, equivalent to roughly 100 billion today, responded by starting the Rockefeller Foundation. At the time, that was an astronomical number of 300 million, was transferred into the account of the foundation and administered by the trustees who were family members and employees of the family of John D. Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller had, in the 1860s, he started on his way in the oil business with a boost of British capital. Rockefeller was soon notorious for using violent methods for increasing his wealth. In The Robber Barons, Josephson talks about those methods. Quote, where the Standard Oil Company could not carry on its expansion by peaceful means, it was ready with violence. Its faithful servants knew even how to apply the modern weapon of dynamite. Again, do you remember when Wall Street had those explosions in the early 1900s and before that? In Buffalo, the Vacuum Oil Company, one of the dummy creatures of the Standard Oil system, became disturbed one day by the advent of a vigorous competitor who built a sizable refinery and located it favorably upon the waterfront. The offices of Vacuum conducted at first a furtive campaign of intimidation, then emboldened or more desperate, they approached the chief mechanic of the enemy refinery, holding whispered conferences with him in a rowboat on Lake Erie. He was asked to do something. He was urged to go back to Buffalo and construct the machinery so it would bust up or get smashed up, to fix the pipes and stills so they cannot make a good oil. And then, if you would give them a little scare, them not knowing anything about the business, you know how. Sorry, hold on, guys. The foreman's reward would be a lifelong annuity. And in due time, a small explosion took place in the independent plant. The Rockefellers also used more sophisticated forms of espionage. John Dee's brother, William Rockefeller, employed in his business a British intelligence officer named Claude Dancy, who prior to World War I had been involved in reorganizing the United States Army Intelligence Service. Danzy's protege, General Marlborough Churchill, a relative of Winston Churchill, was given the task of organizing and directing the American intelligence services. After the war, Churchill ran the Black Chamber, which is an espionage group which was stated allegiance to the State Department of the United States Army, but with implicit servitude to New York and New York's money elite. General Churchill was also responsible for creating the Macy Foundation, which would later be a major conduit for funding of the CIA's MK Ultra mind control research, again in the 1950s and later. In order to change his image as a most despised blackguard of the era, John D. Rockefeller took on the services of Ivy Lee, the top advertising man of the day. Lee suggested that Rockefeller start giving away large amounts of cash. Lee was still in the employ of the Rockefellers when in the 1930s he was given the specific assignment by Standard Oil's President Walter C. Teagle and Hermann Schmitz of the German IG Farben Company to supply intelligence on Americans' reaction to the Nazis and to concoct and disseminate pro-German propaganda to the Americans. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Corporations in America and foundations in America were promoting the Nazis, funding the Nazis, and were the ones that created the eugenics programs here in the States. So they go on to say this was no fluke. Rockefeller holdings, including Standard Oil, were extensively intertwined with those of the Nazis. And contact and commerce, including shipments of oil, continued throughout World War II. Relations with Germany were not so inflamed when Rockefeller monies funded the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Psychiatry in Munich, Germany, initially endowed by Krupp munitions manufacturing family, and James Loeb, the brother-in-law of Paul Warburg and the architect of the Federal Reserve in America, to the tune of $11 million million marks. The Rockefeller Foundation in 1925 also provided $2.5 million in grants to the Institute. Again, American companies funding Germany prior, during, and if we dig deep enough, after the fact. So they gave 2.5 million to the Institute and furnished other large grants to the Institute throughout the Hitler era. They also funded by the Rockefellers was the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Anthropology, Eugenics, and Human Heredity. These institutions were run by the Swiss psychiatrist Ernst Rudin, who was assisted by Ottmar Freiherr. These are long names. Ottmar Freiherr von Verschuer and Franz Kalman. James Loeb was a relative of the Warburg banking family, key among the elite controllers in London, and a business partner of William Rockefeller. The Rockefellers and the Warburgs had initially bankrolled the pivotal American Harriman family in all their enterprises, and they were channeling monies provided by Sir Ernest Cassel, which was the banker to the British royals. The Rockefellers, the Warburgs, the Harrimans are familiar faces. They're appearing again and again during the creation of the primary social control mechanisms of this century. This includes eugenics and psychiatric mind control. These families acted in collusion with the Round Table groups, which were founded by Cecil Rhodes, himself a Freemason and an operative of the Rothschild banking family, as well as the Skulls and Bones Society in America. Although Rhodes Although Rhodes Roundtable groups were originally financed primarily by the Rhodes Trust, since 1925, substantial funding has been provided by the Carnegie United Kingdom Trust, whose first president from 1902 to 1905 was Bonesman Daniel Coit Gilman. He was a man key in the subversion of American education, and organizations associated with J.P. Morgan, the Rockefellers, the Whitneys, the Lazards. Factually, one of the New World Order's early projects was the creation of the Third Reich. Again, do you understand what the lies that we've been told? One of the New World Order's early projects was the creation of the Third Reich. Nazism, in fact, differs very little from the New World Order philosophy, except in the emphasis on German nationalism. After Hitler's ascent to the chancellorship in 1933, interesting date, 1933, which was sponsored by many of the men who lusted after the New World Order, psychiatric institutes controlled by Ernest Rudin were incorporated into the Nazi machine. Rudin became head of the Racial Hygiene Society, and Rudin and his staff in the task force on heredity, chaired by the SS chief Himmler, instituted the German sterilization laws, which was based upon existing American laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Far from being an anomaly of the Nazi regime, the horrific eugenics and psychiatric programs instituted in Germany during this time were only a reflection of the studies and proposals that were in vogue in America and Europe. It has only recently been revealed that thousands of persons deemed physically or morally unfit continued to be sterilized after World War II, and they were being sterilized until the 1970s. Actually, correction. Some people were still being sterilized till just a decade ago. In places like South America, Central America, and even here in the United States, people are still being sterilized without the public's knowledge. Women in prison, some of them are being sterilized. Judges are still ordering women to be sterilized. In very few cases, but you still find them here and there. So they're still continuing the program. So sterilization continued after World War II in Sweden, France, Denmark, Finland, and other European countries, and then, of course, the United States. Hitler's Reich, however, provided a political climate in which eugenics plans could achieve particularly ghastly fruition. Ottmar Fischer, assistant to Ernst Rudin, and the director of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute of Anthropology, Eugenics, and Human Heredity in Berlin, was in turn assisted by a name more familiar to us. That would be Joseph Mengele. Ottmar procured funds for Mengele in human research programs at Auschwitz. There, many arrivals to the camp filled out questionnaires from the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute before a wide range and variety of Frankensteinian experimentation was performed on them. Thousands were tortured and murdered. The body parts were shipped to Rockefeller-financed Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. Mengele was captured and identified in an Allied prison war camp in 1945. But we know that Mengele actually was basically secretly brought over to the United States and Canada because he continued the MK Ultra. He changed his name and he did the experiments. He was one of the doctors that was doing the experiments of MK Ultra here in the States and Canada. So Mengele was captured and identified in the Allied prison of war camp in 1945. And although his captors knew the nature of his crimes at Auschwitz, he was released. His organizational senior also eluded punishment. He was simply hired by the Rockefeller funded eugenics organization, the Bureau of Human Heredity in Denmark. Rudin's assistant, Coleman, testified on Rudin's behalf at the denazification proceedings, and both men were later involved in the creation of the American Society of Human Genetics, which later organized the currently high profile and highly subsidized Human Genome Project. Again, this is the Human Genome Project that everybody talks about today. The Human Genome Project that may turn the description of mankind as sheep into a more than metaphor. In 1936, another player became apparent in the field of psychiatry and psychiatric genetics. Hold on, guys. Keep hating. Keep hating, brother, sister. Keep hating. I'm exposing the fuck out of all you. Keep on sending that energy. I'm sorry, guys. Whoever is listening that doesn't understand what I'm talking about. There's a lot of Satanists that are really pissed off that I'm doing this right now. They're pissed off because all the information is exposed. And once I release it, once I put it out there for people to hear, one person will take it to 1,000. Those thousands will take it to another 1,000. And then it's just going to spread like wildfire. And you can stay the fuck pissed off. Stay mad, bitch. Stay mad. So 19, I told you don't mess with me, but you guys don't understand. You don't know when to say when. So neither do I. In 1936, another player became apparent in the field of psychiatric genetics and mind control experimentation. One hardly whispered of and other exposes one hardly whispered and others expose of the subject, the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. The Scottish Rite's loyalties are and have always been to the New World Order and their vision. Again, anybody part of any of these secret societies, they're all following the same plan. The New World Order vision of the one world government and the loyalties of at least a certain faction of the men promoting it are Freemasons. Glimmerings of the New World Order strategy can, in fact, be traced back to the days of their predecessor, the Rosicrucians. Not to be confused with the mail order AMORC, which are currently seen in UFO and psychic magazines, and such early works as Bacon's New Atlantis. In 1936, Dr. Nolan D.C. Lewis, the Scottish Rite field representative of research on demential praecox, which is incurable insanity, and the director of the New York State Psychiatric Institute, was overseeing 14 projects funded by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite from the Northern Supreme Council. At the time of these Freemasonic psychiatric projects, the Duke of Connaught, or Connaught, son of the German Coburg Prince Albert and Queen Victoria, and brother of the Nazi sympathizer King Edward, was the Grand Master of the Mother Grand Lodge in England. He was also linked to the racialist shadow government, which was called the Broden Bond, that, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, ruled South Africa until recent times and was only exposed in the 1990s. Hence why you had the apartheid until the rebellion, and why you had Project Coast. And if you don't know about Dr. Death in South Africa, I suggest you start reading up on him now. That would be Wasson. Look him up. They were doing secret operations against the Black Africans. I wonder why HIV is so huge in Africa. Has nothing to do with the green monkey. Although very little information is available on these Freemasonic psychiatric projects, details on one provide a telling conjunction between the Freemasons and the Nazis. A protege of the Nazi eugenics head Ernst Rudin, which was a psychiatrist Franz J. Kalman, was forced from his job in Germany when he was discovered to be half Jewish. Kalman's character can be gauged by the fact that he had urged at the International Congress of Population Science in Berlin in 1935 that not only should schizophrenics be sterilized, but the same mutilation should be done and performed on their apparently healthy relatives. Kalman moved to the New York area and smoothly transitioned into being the director of research at the New York State Psychiatric Institute. How convenient. You have a Nazi working at a psychiatric hospital. So he worked at an institution headed by Freemasons, Dr. Lewis Kalman, which was paid by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry to study 1,000 schizophrenics to prove that mental illness was inherited genetically. The study was published in the United States and in Germany in 1938. The preface to the study thanked the Scottish Rite and Rudin. Kalman's report was used as part of the scientific justification for a program launched by the Nazis' infamous T4 unit, which was named after its address. Operatives of T4 were reportedly responsible for murdering over 200,000 mental quote unquote defectives. So, people with autism, people that are considered dumb, people with disabilities. Could have been something simple as, you had a problem with your arm, or you were missing an arm or fingers, or the empire of the city. Hold on. So next they get into the foundation and German biomedical sciences, the men behind eugenics, from eugenics to assassinations. They get into the Bavarian Illuminati and Adam Weishaupt. And then they start talking about the psyche and psychology. So maybe later on I'll come back and I'll continue this book. Actually, no, I will come back on at 9 and continue this book, because we need to know who was really behind the atrocities in the last 120 years. The stories that were told and the history that's presented to the public is not the truth. It's never the truth. Or at least it's not promoted so the public can understand what the full picture is. We don't really know why the wars were started. We don't even know who funded it really. Like, if you listen to mainstream media, you never get any of this information. You have to go and look at the people that are doing the research, that are reading the documents, that are looking at the government documents, that are, interviewing the last survivors. You never get the real information from any mainstream institution. This right here, just this 20-30 minute break, not even breakdown, just the person that did this research and found this information Just gave you all you needed to know about who's responsible for these race-based teachings, past and present, because they flipped it around, right? Before it was the white, you know, eugenics, whites are better, and now they flipped it because their intention is depopulation, not necessarily purity of race, right? It's the whole picture is depopulate by any means necessary and leave the smartest of, let's say, the Anglo-Saxon race part of the society, and then leave a few token people to work the machine, to operate the machine. So these individuals have flipped the race theory, right? Before it was white race, now it's people of color racism. But at the end of the day, they're still going to eliminate the lower classes. Okay? People have always been used as tools to eliminate each other because the elite can't do it. They can't do what they used to do, like the kings and queens begin to slaughter. I mean, they're doing it now, but they're doing it by sections. They can't just go all out, depopulate the world by complete force. They have to implement propaganda, mind control, technologies, subliminal, hypnotizing people through uh through your TV or your phone or your computer. If they didn't have that, it would be very difficult for them to do the mass depopulation program. And it's not working. Hey, you elitist, it is not working because the universe has a law. The consciousness of life has a law. The more you do on one side, so let's say you're trying to eliminate people, the more people are going to be born. Okay, the intelligence of life has a law written into life that the more destruction you bring about, the more building on the other side will be created. The more innovation will be created. So the more you try to squeeze and stomp on life, the more life is going to spring up. And you're going to waste away trying to kill life. I just want you to understand that. You guys are too much in darkness and low vibration to get this point. The more you smash on life, the more life springs up, no matter what the fuck you do. The more you try to, it's like just put it this way. It's like the flower growing in the middle of the fucking highway in concrete. That's life. You can put concrete all up and down this motherfucker, but we're still gonna fucking break through. Because that's how powerful life is. Creation, persistence, consistent, wanting to be to become a being. You can't stop it, no matter what you do. You're gonna die. You're gonna. All of you are looking the same, by the way. All you fuckers look the same. You all look like the Henry Kissingers. All of you. If everyone out there grab pictures of all the elites that are working in this type of program, right? The eugenics, warring, sabotaging, conquering. Put all these people, all their pictures side by side. What do they look like to you? They all look like fucking trolls, like literal fantasy mythical trolls. They look like Chet. Do you guys remember that movie Weird Science in the 80s? Do you guys remember that? With Anthony Michael Hall from The Breakfast Club? Weird Science. Go look at that movie if you haven't seen it. It's an 80s movie. It's funny, it's cute. And it has that former model, I forgot her name. Okay? The Chet character. Okay? The guy's brother. When they turn him into a troll. That's what all these fucking elitists look like by the time they're in their 60s and 70s. They look like a Chet, and they all look the same. Look at Bill Gates. Look at Henry Kissinger. Look at Rockefeller before he passed away. Look at all of them. Brzezinski, Zygmunt Brzezinski. Look at him. Look at all of them. George Soros. They look like walking corpses. There's a reason for that. Because they've spent all their lives trying to take other people's lives, taking other people's lives. So that energy, and then whatever they did in the background, messing with demons and shit, that energy is sucks the life out of you. And you look like a demon troll yourself. I've seen a demon troll. They look like Chet. They're horrible looking creatures. And most of these people, if you look at politicians, you know who's messing with demons and who's not. Look at these politicians. You're going to know right away who's like that their energy is being sucked from them. Line the pictures all up and you're going to see what I'm talking about. It's going to flip you out if you've never actually looked at it. They all look the same. They all look related. That's the energy they have around them. They all look like real trolls. And I'm not talking about like the fairy trolls. No, I'm talking about demons. There are troll demons that look like Chet. So that's your homework for the next, this afternoon. Go look at Weird Science and you're going to see what I'm talking about. You know what? I'll be back tonight at 9:00 to continue on this, exposing these fucking elitists that want to eliminate us because somehow they think they're superior, which they're not. Somehow they think they're more intelligent than us, which they're not. Honey, you got demons talking in your ear, telling you what to think, showing you, inventions. That shit ain't coming from you. I know that because I used to get all the same thing when I was in the occult. I know how it works. Why do you think I know so much? I know how this shit works. Okay? They show you things. You can see in other dimensions. You can see the future. You can see the past. I know how this shit works. So all of you claiming that you're geniuses, you're fucking not. All of you claiming that you invented something, no, you fucking didn't. That shit came from outside of you, was introduced to you, was shown to you how to do it, and you did it. That's where you come in. You put what you saw in action. Someone that spoke the truth about where he was getting his information was Nikola Tesla. He told you where he got his information from the other dimension, from the space people. That's why he only worked after midnight till 4 and 5 and 6 in the morning. He told you straight up. He told you straight up how he got his information. He didn't give you the details, but he told you the inspiration, quote unquote, came from somewhere. And it wasn't his genius. He was a genius because he put it into action. That's the difference between some of us and other folks. The people that get the information and put it into action, they can claim genius, but you're not fucking genius, okay? That genius came from another dimension. So you're not talking to a regular commoner that doesn't know about this shit. Okay, I'll keep it 100. I know where most of you get your information. So go fuck yourselves with your fucking ego, grandized bullshit that you guys be doing. You can take credit, but don't act like you're the fucking genius because that shit is coming from another realm. So stop playing around. I'll be back later on tonight. Talk to you soon.